Ms. Miranda, and this is my learning log for Math 3050. Here's the inside front cover, my title page, the back side cover, and now table of contents for basics, polygons, working with polygons, 3 dimensions, and motion geometry. Starts off with basic motions, lines and their parts. This is the foldable for lines, segments, and rays. Then now try this 11-1. Next I have planes, types of lines in the plane, axiom and theorems, intersecting of line on plane, and plane on plane. And it ends with, now try this 11-12. Here's the foldable for parallel, intersecting, perpendicular, and skew lines. Here we have classification of angles and angle relationships with now try this 11-3. Here's the foldable for acute, right, and obtuse. And then straight and reflex. This is more angles, adjacent angles, complementary angles, and supplementary angles. And then vertical and linear pair. Next is parallel lines cut by transversals. Here is the pocket for the patty paper for angle relationships. Linear pair. Vertical angles. Supplementary angles. Complementary angles. And adjacent angles. Next, the pocket for perpendicular and parallel lines. Parallel lines cut by a transverse line. Perpendicular lines and parallel lines. And a foldable for these. Next, I have mathematical connections 11-1. Now it starts polygons. It defines simple curve, closed curve, gives all of the polygons and how many sides they have, and defines concave and convex. Now try this 11-14. And the Venn diagram for simple, closed, and polygon. Now we have triangle classification by angles and by sides. Then the pocket by sides, equilateral, isosceles, and scaling by angles. Acute, obtuse, and right. Now I have circles, definitions, chord diameter, circle, radius, center, secant and tangent line, and the diagram labeling each. Mathematical connections 11-4. Continued. Now the triangle sum conjecture with the interior angles and remote interior angles. Here is the picture explaining interior angles. Put them together, they're a straight line. Exterior angles make a straight line. Now the polygon sum conjecture, interior and exterior angles. Regular polygons, interior and exterior angles, and central angle. Here is the polygon sum conjecture worksheet. Now I have quadrilaterals, illustrated and defined, and then the quadrilateral worksheet. Now try this 11-4. Along with the quadrilateral on dot paper, trapezoid, square, rectangle, parallelogram, kite, rhombus, and isosceles trapezoid. Then I have the pocket for the quadrilaterals on patty paper. Kite, square, rhombus, rectangle, parallelogram, and isosceles trapezoid. This is the page about tessellations, regular tessellations, semi-regular tessellations defined and illustrated. And the properties at the bottom. Mathematical connections 11-3. And then now it starts 3 dimensions. Simple closed surfaces, defined, and the edges, vertices, and faces of each, followed by Euler's formula, then the pictures of each platonic solid. Then now try this 14-14, and beginning solids with sphere and prism, then the beginning of the nets. Then it finishes up 3D solids, pyramid, cylinder, and cones with more nets. Then there is more nets. Mathematical connections 14-3. Then it begins motion geometry. Defines rigid motions, slides, turns, and flips. Glide reflections defined, and then now try this 13-1 and 13-4. Then now try this 13-5, and it begins symmetry by defining line, rotational, and point of symmetry. Then I have the pocket for the symmetry worksheet. 1, 2, and 3. Then now try this 11-18 and 11-20, and mathematical connections 13-1, and mathematical connections 13-1 continued. And that's it.